It is the evening of Good Friday, in the Jubilee year of 1300. Dante Alighieri is preparing for a dark descent into the underworld. The timing is precise. This is an imitation of Christ's own death and harrowing of hell, timed so that Dante will emerge into the light of purgatory exactly on Easter Sunday. But just as this cosmic expedition is about to launch, the narrative completely stops. We reach the beginning of Canto II, and Dante's forward momentum dies. Standing before the gates of hell, he is overcome by fear and intellectual paralysis. He begins to interrogate his guide, Virgil, aggressively questioning his own worthiness to take another step. Canto II operates as a structural necessity. It forces a mandatory pause required to establish the philosophical, historical, and theological authorization for the entire text. Dante voices his protest to Virgil in a specific, highly revealing complaint. He says, "I am not Aeneas, I am not Paul." Aeneas is the ultimate secular founder. In Roman mythology, he visited the underworld specifically to secure the lineage that would establish the Roman Empire. St. Paul is the ultimate spiritual founder. He was caught up to the third heaven to receive the revelations that solidified the Christian church. By invoking these two names, Dante highlights the sheer scale of what he is attempting. He is measuring his own proposed journey against the two titans of Western civilization. Dante's paralysis stems from a total lack of historical justification. He is a defeated, exiled politician. He holds no empire, leads no church, and possesses no divine mandate to report on the afterlife. To overcome this, Dante has to construct an architecture of authority. We can view Canto II as a structural blueprint that builds this justification from the ground up. We begin with the left side of this blueprint, the historical pillar, rooted in Dante's fear of inadequacy. Aeneas maps directly to the concept of imperium, the secular authority of the Roman Empire. St. Paul maps to the papacy, the spiritual authority of Christian redemption. In the medieval worldview, Roman imperial and Christian histories aren't separate. They form a continuous timeline. Without the geopolitical foundation of the Roman Empire, there'd be no papacy and no vehicle for Christ's redemption on earth. The two forces rely on each other entirely. Facing this massive, intertwined historical legacy, Dante feels entirely unqualified. His personal journey lacks any world-altering significance. To solve Dante's historical problem, Virgil reveals heaven's theological solution, initiating the second pillar of our structural blueprint. A top-down divine intervention has already occurred, a highly structured bureaucratic chain of grace originating in the Empyrean. The first link in this chain is the Virgin Mary, representing divine mercy. She observes Dante's plight in the dark wood and decides to intervene. She commands St. Lucy, representing illuminating grace, to take action on Dante's behalf. St. Lucy then appeals directly to Beatrice, Dante's deceased muse, representing divine revelation and heavenly love. Finally, Beatrice descends all the way down into limbo. There, she commissions the pagan poet Virgil, representing human reason, to physically guide Dante out of the woods. This highly structured chain proves to Dante that his journey is not an act of mortal hubris. It is a mandated rescue mission, engineered by the highest levels of heaven. Notice the tone of this intervention. In his youth, Dante wrote in the Stil Novo, an exquisitely courtly, refined style of romantic love poetry. By placing St. Lucy as the illuminating middle link in a chain of three blessed women, Dante bypasses the traditional patriarchal, bureaucratic layers of the church. When Beatrice descends into limbo to speak with Virgil, she utilizes this exact same courtly, romantic linguistic register to ask for his help. Dante makes an audacious poetic choice here. He repurposes secular human love poetry, transforming it into the actual mechanism for divine Christian salvation. By blending courtly romance with heavenly grace, Dante constructs a new theological framework. This specific framework validates his unique role as a poet, rather than as an emperor or an apostle. We now have the two conceptual halves of Canto II side by side, historical and political on the left, theological and poetic on the right. Dante's journey requires both pillars. He needs authorization from below via Virgil and from above via Beatrice. This resolves the central paradox of Canto II. Dante realizes he doesn't need to actually be Aeneas or Paul, because his poem will serve as the literary synthesis of both their missions. By locking these structures together, the Commedia gains the leverage to critique both a corrupt empire and a corrupt church, asserting a literary authority to guide humanity back to the right path. Upon hearing Virgil's explanation, Dante's intellectual paralysis vanishes. His will is completely restored. The massive intellectual groundwork is now fully laid. There are no more philosophical excuses to delay the journey. With his poetic and theological authority absolutely secured, Dante turns forward, taking his first resolute steps into the